Looking at your case and reading the case notes and looking at the story that surrounds it, to put it bluntly, it makes the Erin Brockovich story look like a tame episode of Judge Judy. Can you tell a UK audience the facts around the story and how you are sitting in Manhattan at the moment under house arrest?
Sure, thank you for the opportunity. In a nutshell, this case concerns the world's worst oil-related disaster on Earth. Not enough people have heard about it. Happened in Ecuador in the Amazon rainforest starting in the mid-1960s when an American company called Texaco, now Chevron, went into this pristine rainforest and secured the rights from the military government to drill over an enormous 1,500 square mile area of rainforest where several indigenous groups were living and had been living prosperously for millennia. And what Texaco, now Chevron, then proceeded to do was grotesque and, in our opinion, criminal. They designed a system of oil extraction that had as its fundamental feature the systematic discharge on a daily basis of millions of gallons of cancer-causing toxic waste into rivers and streams that the local communities relied on for their drinking water, for their bathing, for their fishing, for their very survival. And over a period of time, many people died of cancer. They continue to die. There's 1,000 open-air toxic waste pits that Chevron built that run their cancer-causing effluent into rivers and streams to this day. Chevron left Ecuador in the early 1990s, and we filed a lawsuit. I'm a lawyer. A group of us filed a lawsuit on behalf of the communities that were affected. And in a nutshell, over many years, we ended up winning the lawsuit in Ecuadorian courts where Chevron had insisted the trial take place and where Chevron had accepted jurisdiction. As the evidence mounted against the company, they knew they would lose. They started attacking Ecuador's court system. They started attacking the lawyers who brought the case, including me. They attacked community leaders. And in a nutshell, we won the case big. There's about a $10 billion judgment, which, by the way, that might sound like a lot. It's a modest number compared to the magnitude of the damage. And it's a fraction, for example, of what British Petroleum has paid for its Deepwater Horizon disaster in the United States. But in any event, it's a sizable number. And then Chevron sued me back in U.S. courts where I live here in New York. They named as defendants all the community leaders, other lawyers, scientific consultants. And they ran what was essentially a show trial without a jury, presided over by a judge who's a former tobacco industry lawyer who would not look at any of the evidence from the Ecuador case, would not look voluminous scientific evidence that backed the judgment in Ecuador, which has been affirmed by multiple appellate courts. And he found, based on a paid witness, Chevron paid a witness $2 million, that I orchestrated the bribery of the trial judge in Ecuador in order to win the case, which is something that's completely false. It's been rejected by 29 different appellate judges in Ecuador and Canada who've looked at it, but it was used to attack me and tried to block enforcement of the judgment against Chevron's assets. And as part of that process, Chevron demanded that I turn over my computer and cell phone to the company so they could spy on our operations and our, various enforcement actions. My ethical obligations, my legal obligations prevented me from doing that. So I appealed the judge's name is Louis Kaplan. I appealed his order. It's still under appeal. And while it was under appeal, he charged me with criminal contempt of court and had me locked up in my house where I've been for now 16 months at the time of this interview. So, in our view, this is politically motivated corporate attack by a major oil company and a judge who is sympathetic and wants to punish me and I think really send an intimidating message to all human rights lawyers and advocates who want to take on the fossil fuel industry